Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Asmanthicathon on Yanas TV. So today I wanted to talk about tariffs because a lot of people have asked me, how will tariffs impact the farmers in the United States? And I'll give you the blunt answer up front. Tariffs kind of hurt. They hurt a lot of people. And I think that for a lot of people, it's really easy to look at the short-term effects and say, well, it's going to raise prices for consumers. It's going to have a negative impact on the businesses of many farmers. A lot of farmers have also lost subsidies, have lost grants. That has an impact on them. What we are looking at right now is a kind of a revolutionary period in the United States where you're seeing a lot of downsizing of government and a lot of changes. And those changes, anytime there are changes, there's going to be ill effects that happen during the adjustment period. When talking about tariffs or thinking about tariffs, what is the end game? As somebody who values free market capitalism, normally tariffs are not something that I would say are in any way, shape, or form a good thing, right? The government is getting involved with trade. It's certainly not free market capitalism. But I'll tell you what is also not free market capitalism. Free market capitalism is not where corporations can utilize governments around the world to manipulate the market and put other businesses out of business. When you look at the United States, over the last 20 years, we've had $20 trillion of wealth transferred from the United States to countries like China. $20 trillion. That's a significant amount of wealth. I see people protesting in the streets, and I don't think that they always understand why they're in the position that they're in or why the opportunities are what they are. You see these people out there protesting in the streets because they're unhappy. They're not getting, the life that they were promised for generations. People always thought, I'll have a better life than my parents. What we've seen for the last couple generations entering in the workforce is the complete opposite. Their lives aren't better than their parents. A lot of parents are still taking care of their adult children who have jobs because they just can't make a living the way that their parents did. The baby boomer age is over and things have changed. Things have changed for the worse. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that $20 trillion of American wealth has left this country over the course of 20 years. That's a significant amount of money. What we've seen in America as a result of that is we have actually seen, the poor become poorer, the rich become wealthier, and the middle class is just slowly sliding into oblivion. Why? Because the United States does not have productivity. Productivity is when you create things and those things create wealth. And I think that a lot of our jobs are manufacturing, and I'm going to apply this to agriculture in a couple minutes here. I just want to throw this out there. A lot of this comes down to our values as well. We have certain values, certain expectations for people who work in the United States. Those expectations and values are upheld by unions and other groups that say, hey, look, you need to pay us a certain amount. We need X, Y, and Z. When it comes to production, our corporations are restricted by how much they can pollute. We have animal rights. We have a whole lot of values, and they're good values. They're justifiable values of how we should treat people, treat animals, treat our environment. And around the world, there are other countries that have those similar values, like in Europe. But what you'll probably notice is that all of these countries that have these values have this wealth distribution going to other countries that don't have those values. Why? Because it becomes cheaper to manufacture things. If I can manufacture things that are sub your values, but then sell them to you anyway, then I can save money for the large corporations that want to come and invest in my country, and I can take the money and the wealth from your country little by little, slowly over time. And that is basically what we have seen. I mean, we have seen this massive transfer of wealth to these countries that have lower production values in all things, from animal health and welfare to how they raise their crops, what they consider polluting, to their mining standards. All of these countries with these lower standards are able to produce the products that you and I consume for a significantly cheaper amount of money than what we can do it for. And because of that, in the United States, we don't have as much productivity as we need to sustain the wealth of our country and our economy. Productivity only occurs when you are producing, when you hand out money through grants, that's not really producing, is it? It's free money, and that money is really not free because taxpayers are putting money in. If you look at our deficit's gotten way out of control because basically we stopped producing somewhere along the line and let other countries produce everything for us. The government just kept spending money to prop us up so we can keep consuming, and that's how the deficit got so high. This is basic economics. I mean, it's how the world works. It's unfair to us as Americans. It's unfair because large globalized corporations that say that they're American corporations, have taken our jobs and given them to these countries that are not up to our standards, not up to our values, in order to produce products for less money so that we would keep consuming those products, we'd buy more of their products, and they'd make bigger profits. That's basically what has happened over the past 20 years. And actually probably longer than that. I mean, we were at a trade, we were losing money before that. I just know that the figures, $20 trillion, was over the last couple of years. Even Warren Buffett warned about this back in 2003. Back in 2003, the transfer of wealth was only like $2.3 trillion. Now it's over $20 trillion. And that's why you have, a struggling middle class in America, and you have a very, very poor lower class in America. There's a massive gap between the wealthy and the poor in this country. It used to not be there. And it's making people sad. It's making people angry. And unfortunately, because it's gone on for so long, we have developed an entire country of a class of people that just don't want to work at all. They think that everything should be handed to them. But we can't just keep printing money. I mean, it doesn't work that way. Eventually, our government's going to go broke. The whole system's going to collapse. We've been heading in that direction for years. So when I look at tariffs and I look at the control mechanisms within the marketplace, what I see is by having free and open markets, we have enabled these large corporations, these globalist corporations, to go out and do what they do, find cheap labor somewhere else, make products, somewhere else, and it has decimated our country over time. And it would, if it were left unchecked, would eventually destroy our country. That's just a fact of the matter of it. Now, when you put tariffs out there, 25% tariffs, 20% tariffs, across the board, initially it's going to hurt the U.S. consumer because they're going to pass some of those tariffs back on to us, right? These corporations, they don't really like us. If they did, they'd offer us jobs and produce things in our country so that we can be productive. So they're going to try and pass some of those costs back on to us. We're going to stop buying from them because we'll have less money. I mean, we've already kind of faced a massive tax when we faced inflation under the Biden administration. That was a massive tax. Inflation is a tax. And during that taxing period, what we saw was a greater division of wealth in our country. We saw the middle class really start to kind of fall apart over the last 4 years. So we're going to have to spend less, right? We're going to have to reel in our expenses. We're not going to be able to buy as much. That's not going to sit well with these large corporations, and eventually they will bring jobs back to the United States. They will bring manufacturing back to the United States. I also think that with the current state of the world, the state of the world, meaning it seems as though every other day we're getting deeper and deeper into World War III. I think we're already in it. I think it's just a matter of time before what we've been seeing as proxy wars turn into hot wars between some of the larger countries. And by that, I mean, in a couple months, we could be seeing direct conflict with Iran. Within 2 years, probably direct conflict with China. And I don't know, where we stand with Russia anymore because there's been so much flip-flopping between Russia and Ukraine. But anyway, with the state of, global affairs being what they are, without having any productivity in manufacturing in our country, we're kind of out of the game of being able to manufacture our own weapons. We can't strong-arm anybody. We can't go out there and flex our muscles. If they call our bluff, we're in big trouble because we don't make anything here. We're not that productive as a country anymore. It's sad. I hate to say it. I love this country, but we are not that productive as a country anymore. So ultimately, tariffs as an economic tool would steer corporations to start manufacturing things back here in the United States. It may also help make some of the things that are made here in the United States more affordable. People give me a hard time all the time on the prices of our t-shirts, but that's because we're using USA-made cotton t-shirts. If we were to buy t-shirts from Ethiopia, my Wrangler jeans I'm wearing come from, Kenya or wherever they're made. If we were to buy our shirts from other countries, you would be able to buy affordable t-shirts from our store. But because we stick to USA made, there is a significant cost associated with that. So by putting tariffs on some of these other clothing companies, it will actually, you'll start to see those prices level out a little bit. And the more U.S. corporations are able to compete within the global marketplace, and by that, we are a part of that global marketplace. We are fueling that global marketplace by sending away $20 trillion of our money. The more you're going to start seeing American companies produce. And I think everybody likes it when they can get a job that they're proud of. I know that there are a lot of people that don't want jobs these days, that want life to be as easy and simple as possible and to just collect that check. But the reality is that when you have something that you do that you're proud of, that you can go to work at, it tends to be, you have a better life. You really do. And so by having jobs and manufacturing come back into the United States, we're giving Americans a better life in the long run. So the short term is going to hurt. The long term, it's a good thing. And if we kept with the status quo, chaos was right around the corner, in my opinion. Now, with farms, this is the part that kind of bugs me. With farms, there will be subsidies to help offset the tariffs. There were the last time as well. A lot of these subsidies go to the large farms that play within the global marketplace, or that rely on the global marketplace for trade and to keep them in business. And I've mentioned this before, especially when we started hearing that, Project 25 wants to make farmers less dependent on subsidies. I agree with making people in general less dependent on subsidies. And then you've also heard a lot about grants being canceled. I heard about a flower farm that had they spent $70,000 in solar panels for the roof of their building, and they were supposed to get a climate smart grant for that. They didn't get the grant money, and it was putting them in a predicament. I don't know why you need that many solar panels for a flower farm. We've been growing flowers, we've been growing vegetables for centuries without solar panels. I think a lot of it is a waste of money, but here's the other thing. When we're talking about fair markets, okay, so tariffs bring things back into the U.S. I still think, even with tariffs, we need to deregulate here in the United States. If you want to see manufacturing come back, there's got to be some deregulation. If you want to see farmers succeed, there's got to be some deregulation. And I don't think that these tools should be implemented. You shouldn't implement tariffs without having an answer here in the United States. You need to have a way for companies to expand, for entrepreneurs to succeed here in the United States. I think when it comes to subsidies, what I look at as we transform our economy going into the future, what's going to give us the strongest economy, what's going to give us the best people. I am not one of those people who believe in people who don't earn something by merit getting it. And I've seen a lot of that happen with grants and subsidies. And I'm not, has nothing to do with race or belief. I think if you are a good farmer, you've earned your success. I think if you are a good entrepreneur, you've earned your success. I think that failure is a good way of the marketplace weeding out those who maybe aren't cut out for what they thought they were cut out for and giving them the opportunity to find a new direction. So when we talk about subsidies, when we talk about these grants and how the government influences, a lot of the subsidies are going towards big ag. I think we have 8 billion people in this world to feed. Big ag is definitely important, but it does make things a little unfair for those trying to compete with big ag when they're getting a bunch of subsidies. Likewise, there are a lot of grants going to people based on things other than merit, other than their ability to actually put those tax dollars to use. And again, that creates an unfair competition. I don't think the government should be getting involved with private businesses in any way, shape, or form. If you want to have a free and open market, number one, you can't have other countries manipulating production and pulling all of our corporations away. You've got to stop that from happening. That's where the tariffs come in. You can't have government subsidies subsidizing entire industries and having this unequal balance that is constantly hanging over our heads for years and years and years. All we've heard about is, this overproduction or underproduction and the impacts that it's going to have around the world, and how the governments control all that. They control all that, and then they manipulate prices by not necessarily being 100% honest on their reporting. Somebody got mad at me for saying that. I'm not saying that the farmers aren't honest on their reporting. I'm saying that the government numbers are incorrect or being reported incorrectly. We saw that a lot over the last 4 years with employment numbers. And finally, with grants, again, you're creating unfair competition for farmers who can't get grants. You're creating an unfair situation. But if you took those away and people had to get it done through good old-fashioned grit, people had to stick with something in order to make it happen. Number one, you'd see a much higher success story. I think when people are given free money, when they're given opportunity, a lot of times they don't utilize it to its fullest potential. Those who work from the ground up, those who have to succeed, or they completely fail because they've gotten everything they have themselves invested in it. You're going to see a much higher level of productivity. So I, in general, I haven't been a big fan of grants. But for those right now with the grant system, the problem is that it creates an unfair competition. So those who are willing to put in the grit, those who are willing to put into the work, they're constantly having to go up against people who have gotten a lot of free money, and that's hard to do. And so it ends up restricting those people who could normally do it on good work and merit. So I don't, when I look at the future for farming and agriculture, when I look at the future of our country, where we're going, I think, if we ended up in a situation where the people who made it are the people who had to make it on their own, people who had to make it without government support, you're going to have much higher productivity, a much better country, more jobs, more opportunities for people, more opportunities for entrepreneurs, and less competition with programs that are supporting people for other reasons than merit, other reasons than being good producers. In the end, it's going to be a much better system. In the end, we're going to be a much stronger country. So that's my thoughts on it. I do think it's going to hurt in the short time.